You ready?
I've already hit the button, so why?
Yeah, all right. Welcome back to the Project Gen X podcast. I am one of your hosts, Alan Smith, along with...
I'm the other guy, Big Dave.
And on this episode, we are going to be talking about the 1989 Tim Burton film... What's the name of this movie? What is it?
Batman.
You went a few years beyond that with that one. Keaton didn't exactly do that voice. So that was a Christian Bale thing. So
I'm Batman.
Yeah, we will talk about some of that later as well. Yeah. So let's take a step back about a decade. Okay,
we're going back to the '60s Batman.
No. I said a decade.
Oh, okay.
Yes, there was the 60s Batman. We, as Gen Xers grew up watching reruns of it and, thought that it was cool because it was the only Batman that we had. Looking back, it is hokey as all hell.
It always was hokey.
I know.
Even back then, I thought it was hokey.
But it was just, you're a kid.
But it was a comic book, and they were trying to make it like the comic book.
And then, of course, there was like the Super Friends. So you had Batman and Robin there. Batman and Robin would show up on Scooby-Doo Mysteries, and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, okay, so there had been Batman. But what I was going to actually take a step back to is the 1978 Superman, the movie, which was the first time they really took a comic book superhero and did something that wasn't hokey.
Yeah, that's
with
true.
it, that actually was like, no, we're going to make a movie, like an actual movie. We're going to take this seriously. And
it's just too bad they couldn't have done it with a superhero that knew to wear the underpants on the inside.
Yeah, well, it's...
I have no love for the big blue Boy Scout.
Superman's never been my guy by any stretch of the imagination.
I will concede that the latest Superman that we got, what's his name?
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill is probably the best version of Superman that we've gotten.
If I were going to rewatch a Superman movie, that would be the one.
Yeah.
But I have no desire to rewatch any of the Superman movies because I just don't care for the character.
No, I don't either. He's like I said, he's too much of a Boy Scout.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the 78 Superman the movie.
Yeah.
And then was it 80 or 81 when Superman 2 was released? Anyways, both of those movies took him very seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, it was and then by the time you get to 3, I don't know what the hell that was with Richard Pryor and he's fighting himself in a computer or something. I don't know.
The Richard Pryor one was great because of Richard Pryor.
But that's not a Superman. It's not a serious Superman movie, okay?
No.
And then you get to Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, which was put together. I've spent more money on this podcasting equipment than they spent on that movie, okay?
You're probably not wrong.
That is again, that was a Canon Films thing, Golden Globus, and it's they were notorious for you have a budget of $500,000, go make us a blockbuster.
Yeah.
And, and that might get slashed by the time we get there. But yeah, this was the one when they announced they were doing a Batman movie, okay? First thing they announced was it was going to be directed by
Tim Burton.
And it was like the guy that did Beetlejuice. It was like, okay, fine, we'll see what happens here,
Yep.
I will go on record as saying Beetlejuice is my favorite Tim Burton movie.
That's a good one.
After that, it's got its peaks and valleys. Then they announced that Michael Keaton was going to be playing Bruce Wayne / Batman, which that was a thing. Anyone that talks about internet trolls and fan bases that just complain about everything, even before there was an internet, the fans were already complaining about Tim. Like they got Mr. Mom that's going to, Mr. Mom's going to play, Batman, because that was his biggest role was Mr. Mom. He had done Mr. Mom, he had done Gung Ho, he had done the Dream Team, a few things like that.
I was still a kid when all of this was going on, and all I cared about is that my favorite comic book character was finally getting a movie. That's all I cared about.
Growing up reading comic books, and at this time, I was 15 when this movie came out, and there was so much anticipation for it. And I'll be honest, again, Batman, I was not reading Batman comics. I was a Marvel guy from day one.
Yeah.
I mean, that just, Spider-Man, X-Men, that type of stuff. And so
I was almost exclusively Batman Detective Comics.
Well, I had a friend who, that I had known since like fourth grade, who was really into the DC stuff as well. He read Marvel also, but he was really into DC, so he had all the Batman stuff. That was And he was this was right around the same time with the death of Jason Todd, the Death in the Family stuff.
Yep.
And so I had read all that stuff because Baxter had been like, here, you need to read this. This is really good. This is when Batman was starting to make his turn. Dark Knight had returned. Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, the Frank Miller Batman and all that.
And so it was one of those things that they had really kind of taken him away from that smiling.
Oh no! And they brought him into the dark era. Where he should have been in the first.
Yeah,
that was the thing that drew me to DC, anyways, because it was always a little darker, a little grittier.
Depending on the comic.
Well, depending on the comic, yeah. But the darker, grittier ones were the ones that I was.
But it was. I liked Marvel. And we've talked about this before, but the reason why I was always such a Marvel fan is because they were grounded in the real world a little more. Because they actually were. It was New York. It was all that kind of stuff, and so it was one of those. As grounded as you can be when you have superheroes, okay?
Everybody knew Metropolis was New York.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of wondered where Gotham was.
Chicago, obviously. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, buts about that. Which is funny, considering that there actually is a Metropolis, Illinois, that's about as big as my house.
Yeah.
And, and there is a Gotham... Is it Ohio, I think it is, or something like that? There's a couple, because it's one of those things that, they didn't go with the big cities, the that type of stuff, and they did name them, a lot of the cities after little small towns where the different creators grew up, and that kind of, or in the area and that kind of stuff. It's kind of like the whole Mount Pilot in the Andy Griffith Show. Well, there's not a Mount Pilot, but there's a Pilot Mountain.
Yeah,
that's
over at Mount Airy.
In Mount Airy, exactly. Which Mount Airy is where,
I actually have a good friend of mine who's from over there originally. So that's kind of...
Mayberry was definitely that mountain, the Mount Airy. I mean, it was, type thing. So, anyway, the lead up to this, I mean, everything was pushing it. I mean, it was Batman. They coined the phrase Batmania. That was the...
And then you found out Prince was doing music.
And Prince was doing, which was, again, at the time was like, really the, the Purple Rain guy, it's like Prince, okay. Entertainment Tonight was covering it ad nauseum. I mean, it was always all of those shows. All of those Hollywood entertainment shows was covering this thing. I mean, the run up to this movie was like nothing that I had ever seen before. I mean, legitimately. Even there was no run up to Star Wars because no one knew Star Wars was going to be that big.
No,
there was run up to Empire and Jedi, but it wasn't. It was one of those things where it was just kind of at that point. It was just kind of like, no, these are going to be big movies. This isn't. This we've already seen the first parts.
But the Batman
of these.
thing was a full on media.
It was
blitz.
Straight up, and I got to hand it to Warner Brothers. They did a great job with that.
Yeah.
They did. They went out there and they had Batman. Everything.
Oh, they were making more money off the merchandising.
Goodness.
Than they were the movie.
That was
before the movie was released.
In the run up to the movie, I decked out. I mean, because anywhere you go into, you go into like Walmart or someplace like that, and they had Batman stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And I wound up with quite a bit of Batman merch in my bedroom. I had one of those the faux silk, that were like. They were like 6 foot tall, and they had like screen print on them, and it was like the comic book Batman, that I had up on my wall, and I had a Batman poster, and and of course it was one of those things with being in the comic books. I mean, everything was promoting Batman, previews, like all that, everything was just Batman, And I've got this. The other thing was that I know you're wearing your Batman shirt today.
I am wearing my Batman shirt.
This is an actual 1989 officially licensed Batman. Not the movie, but like DC put them out.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of this time, and we will put pictures of
that's
this.
Kind of the Frank Miller
era.
Very
much so. He's got the purple cape, and he's still got the gray and everything, and it's...
there's some skulls and stuff.
Yeah, this is a DC Comics 88 is what it says on here, but it was 89. the thing about this is that, it's like, there's like a bunch of like punk rock looking guys, mohawks, whatever, they're laying around him, and there's
that's totally Dark Knight then.
Yeah, and there's a red moon behind him with bats flying.
I'm trying to remember what the name of it was. There was a name.
Yeah, for the gang.
I can't remember what it was.
But it's one of those things that, like, that right there is not the original one that I had. Okay, like that one went away a long time ago because I wore it and wore it and wore it and wore it until there was nothing left of it. And I bought that one off of eBay 20 years ago, probably. Just because I was like, dude, I loved that shirt. It was just
trying to figure out where you found a child size.
That's an XL.
That looks like it would fit a 4-year-old.
It's funny. Well, but then you also got to remember that in 1989, an XL was a lot different than an XL now because people are a lot fatter these days than they were back then.
Hey, watch your
mouth. I'm just talking about it in general. It's funny to like see a lot of like those like the classic tees and stuff. Like stuff that people like the vintage or whatever, and you get like like, oh yeah, I'm a large. And you buy a large. Somebody and it comes in, it's like, no, this is a small. Okay, this is But again, people weren't as fat as we are now because of excess and GMOs and all. Look, we're all that way. But it's just the reason why I loved that shirt so much because that was available in a mainstream store rather than having to order it online, or not online, order it out of a catalog, or maybe wandering into a comic book store where I did, but most people didn't, and like being able. I think Spencer Gifts might have had a few things like that,
had some.
But it was just one of those things like being able to walk into a Walmart, or I think I actually got that one at Hill's department store when they were still open, you know, and being like, look, there's something with Batman on it that's not a kid's shirt, because this is the first time since I was a little that I could find anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just like, because it was like, no, you're a teenager now. You don't wear that stuff, And it's just like, in the 80s, it was like that. Again, goes back to the whole, the kids these days don't understand how good they have it.
You're not wrong. You're not. Let me rephrase. Geeks these days don't know how good
exactly. But, it was like, I remember like People Magazine doing like, all kinds of a run up to it. My mom had a subscription to People Magazine, and there was like that infamous, like the guy that had the picture of the guy that had the bat symbol like shaved into the back of his head, and it was just kind of one of those things where I'm like, it was everywhere. And this was months before the movie actually was released. I mean, the build up
when you started getting who else was going to be in the movie. I mean, that started.
Jack Nicholson is the Joker.
Yeah.
We haven't even started talking about the movie yet. We're just talking about again, we're doing the build up to it because there was so much build up to it to begin with.
Yeah. What are you looking for?
I actually have the video game over there also. I was just thinking, I was like, oh yeah, I've got Batman the video game down there.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, for the NES. Which I really enjoyed that game. I mean,
why have we not got your system hooked up and played this?
Because I have not hooked the system up yet, and I need to do that so I can get all this stuff set up.
You knew we were talking about this?
I know.
You didn't set it up to where we could play the video game? What is wrong with
you? The video game is a lot of fun. I thought it's hard. It's like all those Nintendo games. They're hard.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. And it's one of those things where it's like this bright purples and bright, greens. And, it's very, it's a dark background, but like Batman pops off the screen with that purple, and the Joker like pops off the screen with his green and purple. And like the bad guys are like these neon oranges and this and that, and it's like, yeah, this is awesome, NECA Toys did about a decade ago did a run of some of that stuff, like they did a Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th video game. It was that version, with like the purple jumpsuit and the green, and everything. Yeah. And they did one of the Batman from that cool. also, which was like, that is pretty cool. I wish I had my hands on one at one point, and I was like, do I really need this? I really wish I had purchased it now.
Yeah.
Because they're expensive as all crap. There was just all this stuff. It was all this is build. The music came out. The album was released, the Prince album.
Yep.
And then the Bat Dance video.
Yep.
And say what you will about that song. It was all over the place in the summer of '89. You could not get away from it.
I had the soundtrack on cassette.
Yeah.
And then later on, after I wore it out, I had it on CD.
You did, yeah. See, I think I had it on CD.
And CD was so new at that point. In the video, at some point, Prince is actually trying. Look, he's got a CD there and he's like scratching it like it's a record. It's like that is not how that works.
I know. It's there's all kinds of. We talked about that in the Batman Returns when we did last summer, where he's scratching the CD. You know, it's like, no, it's not how that works. It doesn't work like that at all. Now you're going to get nothing. You do that, nothing happens. Yeah, that's you might get a little, and that's about it. So it's, So the movie finally comes out in, I didn't even look up with the actual date. I think it was in June, if I'm not mistaken. Because I know I was out of school. It was leaving my sophomore year of high school was one of those our freshman year of high school. So leaving my freshman year of high school was like, I cannot wait. This is my whole summer is like basically revolving around this movie. Without ever having seen a single, other than just some screen grabs from, here we go. I got it. It was released on, where is it? June 23rd, 1989. I knew it was in June. I knew it was, it was well after school had let out. And I didn't see it like most, back then, you got to remember in the 80s, you didn't necessarily go see the movie on opening weekend. Sometimes you did.
What are you talking about?
There were a ton of movies that I did not see opening weekend. I would go see it eventually. Yeah. Usually, and it's one of those things like I've talked about many times. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and so, I would go to the movies. Her and I would go to the movies quite a bit, Yeah. And a lot of times it would be like in the middle of the day on entering the week, rather than going on the weekends or whatever, So, I think it had been out a couple of weeks before I finally saw it. And I had somebody spoil all of it for me. But that was before we knew about quote-unquote spoilers.
That sucks. I would have
not really.
You should have beat whoever that was.
Nah, it didn't bother me, especially after I saw the movie.
Did you not love the movie?
I have said this many times. This movie is boring as everything.
Oh, come on.
I remember being I remember liking it, but also being like, wow, that was really long, and it was really slow. It's really slow.
There was
really slow, and
there were some places that they probably could have cleaned it up a little.
And Batman's barely in it. I mean, it is seriously, Batman is barely in this movie.
It's more Bruce Wayne than
Bruce Wayne's barely in this movie. This is a Joker movie. Jack Nicholson.
Okay, I can't really.
Jack Nicholson is all over this movie. I shouldn't even say it's a Joker movie. It's a Jack Nicholson movie.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he got top billing on all the stuff, like on the movie posters and stuff. It was Nicholson was above the Batman.
He stole the movie. I mean, he really did.
Okay, we will get into that in just a little bit. Some of the other people that we have in here, and I got to hand it to the screenwriters for kind of. Of course, you got Michael Keaton as Batman, / Bruce Wayne. Jack Nicholson as Joker / Jack Napier, which is we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale.
Yep.
You have
Robert Wool.
Robert Wool as Alexander Knox,
the reporter.
Yeah. Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon, which I think
they did Commissioner Gordon dirty in this movie.
We'll get into Gordon, but Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent, which was a nice oh wow, okay, no, they're getting into some of this stuff. Of course, you had Michael Gough as Alfred, Jack Palance as Grisham. I love Jack. I forgot. What's funny is that when I started watching this earlier, I watched it right before you got here, and I forgot that Jack Palance was in this movie. It'd been a while since I'd seen it, and he's only in the first 15 minutes of it or something.
He really is.
Jerry Hall as Alicia.
Yep. Tracy Walter as
Bob the Goon. Bob the Goon is one of my favorite characters in this movie.
Probably
always has been.
Probably the most competent goon in comic book history.
Absolutely. Ever. I love the fact that Lee Wallace just plays a mayor. They don't even give him a last name or anything.
Yeah, it's Mayor Borg.
This just says mayor.
It's Mayor Borg.
Okay.
B-O-R-G.
And then there's just a bunch of goons listed on IMDb. But the thing
you also got William Hootkins as Eckhart.
As Eckhart. The corrupt police detective. I love the fact that they did their due diligence with Harvey Dent and that kind of stuff, because it's like your average person didn't at that time especially had no idea who Harvey Dent was.
Yeah.
That he was Two-Face. He would become Two-Face,
Eventually.
Yeah, but it's one of those things for the comic book geeks. We were like, oh, wow, they're doing Harvey Dent, and it's Lando. It's like... I really... Commissioner Gordon in this movie...
They did him dirty. They made him kind of a fool.
A little bit, but they rectified it over the next 3 movies, though, where they really fleshed his character out a little bit and made him more competent and more of the, again, this is the beginning. This is the beginning of Batman, no pun intended, where they don't know who he is, whose side he's on, blah, blah, blah.
But at the beginning of Batman, Gordon's not commissioner. I mean, he's a...
But this is a different, okay? Well, see, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. No. If you go back and read Batman comics that were printed to this point, I don't think we'd gotten year 1 yet, or maybe we had just gotten Batman year 1. It was somewhere around there. That was around with that whole, that gritty renaissance that happened, for
the beginning of Frank Miller.
But Commissioner Gordon had always been Commissioner Gordon. In the comics. I mean, he had always been Commissioner Gordon. We didn't get
Gordon's backstory
until Batman Year 1 was put out. And then, of course, it was done in the Nolan movies. It was done in Gotham. It was done in a whole bunch of stuff later, where it's like, okay, yes, this is a character worth going and revisiting and figuring out how he went from just a beat cop to being commissioner.
Fleshed out.
And being incorruptible in a very corrupt system. But I like the fact that they went with the older look. They got somebody that did I think a really good job playing him in this. Same thing with Alfred. This was in the days before Alfred was turned into MI6 and and all this kind of stuff, and it was just like, okay, well, he was just a butler. That's all he was. Alfred was a butler. He was he was a substitute father for Bruce, and all that kind of stuff. And the thing is those two the two actors that played those characters, they played those characters through all 4 of those original Batman.
Yeah,
movies.
they did.
They were the only ones that did that. Billy D. Williams showed back up in Batman Returns as Harvey Dent, but then when you get to Batman Forever, Tommy Lee Jones wound up playing Two-Face instead. And so it's like there's a lot of that stuff where they
which
went through,
was not a good Two-Face.
You can watch that movie and tell that it is a paycheck for him. He does not want to be there. He thinks it's stupid.
And hated Jim Carrey.
Yeah, he flat went to Jim Carrey and said, "My kids think you're funny. I can't stand you."
Yeah,
it's just like, well, I guess we know where we stand here.
Yeah.
Well, we're jumping ahead on the movies though, and we're going to get to some of that at the end of this. The movie itself, watching it today, I saw so many Burton-isms in this thing.
He's got a style.
But the thing that really kind of bothered me in the first part of this movie, like literally the introduction we get to Batman, where he lowers down, behind the two people that just mugged the family, all that kind of stuff, and is he lowers down. He's got his cape out,
like
where he's coming down. He does that same thing in every scene through that. Like every time they cut to Batman, he puts his wings up, going towards somebody. I was like, that is like dumb. Okay,
he's trying to make an impression.
It's not working very. I'm like, why do you keep doing that? That's this is that. Now he stops doing it after that first initial, like those first few scenes of all of. But I'm just like, why does he keep doing that? Like, why? Another Burtonism that I caught in this was when they're going to the I can't believe I can't remember the name of the chemical company.
Axis
Chemical Company. Every time somebody hits something or shoots something, an explosion happens, a small explosion. It's like everything. It's like he's going through like flipping levers and stuff, and all of a sudden all these little explosions are going. It's like that. No, that's not how that works.
I love how he turned a wheel and then the paper printer, for some reason, had a breeze behind it.
I know. It's just like all that kind of stuff where it's like, I have always loved the aesthetic of this Gotham. Because it's very Tim Burton, but it's very gothic.
It's very much comic book.
Yes,
he tried
absolutely.
to keep it rooted in the comic book, so it has a comic book feel to it. See, the thing about Burton is Burton was never a huge comic book fan.
Not in the slightest.
And there was an interview, I forget where it was, where he said he wasn't a big comic book fan,
right.
but he'd always loved the image of Batman and Joker.
Well, it fits right in his goth whatever.
Well, part of it was he said he didn't know if it was the dyslexia or what it was, because he could never tell what box he was supposed to read first.
Oh, okay.
And his favorite comic book was Killing Joke, because suddenly it was very obvious what box he was supposed to read first.
Right.
And so that was like, that was his favorite comic book.
Killing Joke might be something we could cover later, because that's there's a lot going on there.
I don't think I have read Killing Joke in forever.
Okay, you have read it.
I've read it, but it was like when it first came out, and I was like, I don't like this, and I didn't realize what I was reading.
Right.
I need to find another copy.
And the thing is, the Killing Joke is literally like an issue.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like a big story arc over multiple issues or something. It's like, no, it was one little issue,
it was a one-off
that came out. I think it might have been double-sized it, whatever, but it was just kind of one of those, like, no, it's just this one little thing.
Yeah, what if the Joker won?
Kind of. And there's a lot of controversy around that book for multiple reasons that we will not get into here. But that, again, was something that, the famous Joker panel of him with his hands in his hair, and he's all of the ha 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 ha's behind it comes from that.
Oh yeah,
and probably, and again starts toying with the Joker's backstory.
Yeah,
and even that line that has become famous for the Joker comes from that, where it's like, if I have to have an origin, I'd rather it be multiple choice.
Yeah.
That's, because it's one of those things where this might have happened, it might not have, who knows?
Well, people always talk about the Joker being crazy, but at one point they cover that. It's not that he's crazy. Mm-mm. He's got super sanity.
Oh, something I wanted to get into here. Okay, so Jerry Hall in this movie. Okay.
Supermodel.
Yes.
Jerry Hall.
I think at this point she was Miss Mick Jagger, if I'm not mistaken. It was somewhere around this time when they got married.
Probably.
Joker has a type in this movie.
Yeah.
Tall blondes.
Joker has kind of always had.
I don't know. Let's be honest. We don't know. Okay? The only love interest that we have seen in our lifetime for the Joker
came from Batman, the animated series.
Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different thing. Okay.
She's definitely blonde.
Yeah. That was what I was going to get to. Watching this movie, because this movie came out 4 years before Batman, the animated series.
Yeah.
Okay. It was really nice watching something with the Joker that Harley Quinn wasn't in. Character, I am over that character because they put her into everything.
Well, they were trying to draw the female fan base in.
Okay, but the thing is, they've done the same thing to her that they did with Wolverine, that they did with Venom back in the day, that they did with Deadpool, that they did with a whole. I'm talking. Of course, these are all Marvel that I'm talking. But the thing is it's like she became such a popular character that they're like, oh yeah, let's put her in. Let's
put her in everything.
This will sell comics, and it's like, no, this is oversaturation, It's like, oh my goodness.
I think she's an interesting character.
She was. Now I don't know what she is.
If they would actually do, an actual real like backstory and like story arc with her.
I have enjoyed Margot Robbie as her.
Absolutely.
I think she has done a great job with that character. But, I tried watching that Harley Quinn, that cartoon that's on HBO Max or whatever. I think I got through one episode. I'm like, no. I know, I see what you're trying to do. It's not working. I don't care. This is, and just everything else. It's like that has, in the last 30 years, Harley Quinn has just been forced upon us. Just like, you like this? Here's more. Dude, it's like freaking, DC has been a drug dealer when it comes to this, where it's like, oh yeah, I got more of it here. You like that? I know you like it. Some more. Okay, here you go. No, you really you want this.
Well,
you want this.
DC's had a hard time. They've always been a number 2 to Marvel. I'm as a DC guy.
Somewhat.
They've kind of always been a number 2 to Marvel.
It depends.
And when they find something that works, they tend to work it into the ground.
Yeah, well,
so
Batman
to a point. Yeah, you're not wrong.
So, we haven't barely even talked about this movie. So yeah, basically what it is, we get the introduction. Vicky Vale comes to town because of what's his name, the reporter
Knox.
Knox has been doing these stories about the bat. They keep calling it the bat.
Yeah,
and of course the criminals are talking about him in hushed tones. They're like, no man, I don't want to be around here because this crazy bat guy.
Yeah,
and so we find out that that Jack Napier.
I don't like the fact this is kind of the first time that they've given Joker a name and a backstory, and I do not like
Killing Joke did it first. Then there was this.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole, I think the animated series went with his name was Joe Chill instead of
See, I don't like this either because now they're blending the guy who actually killed Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Right. And see, that's the thing with this one when they started doing the whole oh no, the Joker is like, I don't think that before, to my knowledge, this is the first time that was ever put out there as, before he was the Joker, he killed the Waynes. And
it's
I'm like,
no, he didn't.
No, not that, no.
I mean, there was a Joe Chill.
There was a Joe Chill.
He was part of Grissom's group.
Right.
He was one of the thugs.
Right.
And he was sent to go after Thomas and Martha Wayne to scare them off because Thomas and Martha Wayne were trying to help clean up the city.
Right. And then all that happened.
Yeah, he shot him and left Bruce.
Right. And created the Batman.
Yeah, a sociopath.
Right. Absolutely. Batman is a sociopath. Unlike what the Blue Beetle, trailer wants to tell you, Batman is not a fascist. He is most definitely a sociopath.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like...
As a Batman fan, I have no problem in saying that.
Yeah, and again,
and it comes from childhood trauma.
Yeah,
he watched his parents murdered in front of him.
And, and there's always been that debate also of like, is Bruce Wayne the Mask or is Batman the Mask?
Bruce Wayne is the Mask.
Oh, I know.
Bruce Wayne's always been the Mask.
I agree with that in a lot of ways. So basically, Napier's messing around with Grissom's girlfriend. He finds out, orders a hit on him. That's what this whole Axis Chemical thing.
Sends him to Axis Chemicals to clean it out, and it's already been cleaned out.
Yeah, and then the cops show up, and then Batman shows up.
Well, Eckhart got paid.
Right.
But
it's like
the cops.
Yeah, and so it's one of those. But Gordon finds out, comes in with his guys.
Yeah,
there's bullets flying everywhere inside of a chemical factory, and eventually,
Napier does it to himself because he shoots at Batman. Batman blocks the shot with one of the gauntlets he's wearing. It hits a piece of equipment, and then ricochets right through both cheekbones.
Yeah.
And puts him over the rail into the vat.
But Batman tries to save him.
He does.
He catches him, but he loses a grip and he falls into the vat of acid.
Yeah.
And then he winds up going to a mob doctor and they work on his face, but it doesn't come out too well.
They butcher him.
Yeah, and he has a permanent grin on his face now. And then it's from there. It's your typical Batman and Joker story in a lot of ways.
I really like Nicholson's version of Joker, and the reason I say that is because it's very much an homage back to the Cesar Romero version of Joker.
Okay.
I mean, the bright green hair, the red lipstick, the suits like he was doing, and Cesar Romero's Joker was literally doing evil for the joy of causing mayhem and chaos. And there was, coming up to the Nolan, some men just like to watch the world burn.
Right.
And that was the Caesar.
There have been so many iterations of Joker.
Yeah.
I mean, because you go back and read a lot of that stuff from, the 30s and 40s and, on through the 60s. And, he was the clown prince of crime, and it was one of those things. It was always some kind of gimmick, of trying to this big Rube Goldbergian plan of trying to whatever, and usually had some kind of like punchline to it, if nothing else.
To the point to where Cesar Romero he wouldn't even shave his mustache.
Oh, I know. They just put I know.
He would literally put the paint over it, and it kind of added to the chaos of the character.
But as time wore on, he became darker.
Yeah.
And by the time, again, you get to the Killing Joke, and that type of stuff, it's this guy is a psychopath.
Yeah.
And he murders people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're not going to gloss over any of the, we're not going to gloss over the, like, leave them with a smile type stuff to where it's like, okay, were they, and then they had like some little panel of like, oh, the doctors are taking care of them, they're getting them back to normal, blah, blah. This was like, no. He broke out of Arkham and he killed 10 people.
Yeah.
In cold blood.
Yeah.
No,
Well, I mean, it kind of gets into that in this movie. While I say it's an homage back to the Cesar Romero version, I mean, right off the bat, the first time you see him as the Joker, he's got that hand buzzer.
Right.
That he
Well,
And he melts all the flesh off of that dude completely down.
Which was funny because, again, I had not watched this movie in a long time. I forgot about that. And then, of course, last year we had done the Batman Returns. And the same thing happens to Max Schreck.
Yeah.
Remember, he gets electrocuted and he's just a skeleton at the end of it.
Smoking skeleton.
I know. It's
at
like,
the end of it.
Oh, again, there's your Burtonisms, It's
I mean, he kills that guy. When they go and get the quote affidavit for Grissom to turn his business over to his associates, I mean, he just walks up and darts him with a poison quill.
I know. And then they start firing.
You're dead. And then they just start shooting at the crowd randomly.
Yeah. And I know.
You start to get a little bit of that darker psycho.
Here's one of the things about Tim Burton's Gotham that bugs me a little bit.
Okay.
Seems like almost nobody lives there.
If you lived in that city, would you be going out on the streets?
But even it's just like, even at the end when they're doing, he's dropping $20 million in like all, Gotham's greed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Still looks like maybe like, I don't know, a couple thousand people live there and that's it.
Well, the only people that are going to show up for that, knowing that this is a guy that's trying to kill everybody, are going to be the miscreants and goons and punks.
But that's every time that there's some kind of gathering, especially in Gotham Courthouse, there's like, oh look, there's like 24 people here. That's it. And I'm not talking about just the reporters. I'm talking about even when they're like, making some big announcement or whatever. It's like, it looks like, there's a couple dozen people.
So
and
the
that's
budget
it.
was a little short for extras.
But whatever. Yeah. But it just, it's nitpick stuff and that, my biggest problem that I have with this movie is the pacing and the, and
some of the acting.
Some of the acting is not great, but the whole, the Jack Napier, that bothers me more than anything.
No, I wasn't happy about that. I was like, we don't know the Joker's backstory. Why are we doing this?
What did you think about Vicky Vale?
I know at one point Vicky Vale was, Batman's love interest in the comic books and all that. I was never interested in that because he didn't seem like the kind of person that would be having a love interest because he's off. I mean, let's admit it. He's off.
Get that.
I mean, it was Kim Basinger. Kim Basinger was in everything.
Kim Basinger at this time was like, she was number one with a bull.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no ifs, ands, buts about it. And I was trying to think, what's the last thing that we saw Kim Basinger in?
It was 8 Mile, wasn't it?
That's the last thing that I really remember her high profile that she did. I think she's done some stuff, some like smaller movies since then or whatever. But 8 Mile, and that was 20 years ago. Yeah.
What?
8 Mile came out 20 years ago. And it's like, wow. And I kept trying to think, what else has she done since then? Maybe she's done some voice acting or something. I don't know.
It's not like we don't have the entire knowledge of the world.
That's true. But here. It's just, she kind of fell off the face of the earth one day. Now, that could have very well been, hey, I'm done with all this. It probably had something to do with her and Alec Baldwin getting a divorce. But yeah, I know.
She's 69.
Yeah, I know.
She still doesn't look bad for 60.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's funny because she's originally from Georgia.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of times rewatching this that I was like, oh, there's that Southern accent. Yeah, it's there. It's
yeah.
But it's kind of, which is funny because Jerry Hall also from the South, did a pretty good job covering hers up in this. Now, she didn't have a whole lot of lines, but it just wasn't there because she's always had like a really thick Southern accent. And
the last thing she did in her IMBD that I'm seeing was 50 Shades Darker in 2017.
I didn't see that, so I had no desire for any of that stuff.
The only one I really recognize since 8 Mile is The Sentinel, which was 2006.
Okay, well, that's around that same time. We're still talking over 15 years ago, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, Kim Basinger was everywhere, and I really enjoyed seeing her in this again. Again, kind of going back to that whole late 80s, like, this is, she was a very popular actor and a sex symbol on top of it all. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, buts about that. And it was kind of nice because I really hadn't thought about Kim Basinger in a long time. Because she hadn't done a whole lot,
Well, everybody, the one that really kind of blew her up a little bit was Cool World. When she did the animated
that one didn't
live action,
because that movie's such a bomb.
Oh, it's a bomb and a half, but it was.
That was kind of the thing is because around that same time she had done The Getaway, which was pretty. But she wound up winning an Oscar for L.A. Confidential. Yeah, in the late '90s, and after that was when you really kind of saw her. It's funny how you see that with people that they'll win an Oscar and they kind of fall off. They go one or two ways. They either blow up and just are they're put in everything, or they just kind of disappear.
It's almost kind of like, here's your Oscar, now go away.
Yeah, and so and I believe her Oscar win. Well, there was a lot of controversy around her Oscar win to begin with.
Yeah,
a lot of rumors that her husband basically bought that for her, and
it was go away money.
I will defend forever that Gloria Stewart should have won that Oscar over her.
For what movie?
Titanic. She was the old woman. I mean, that was the, and the thing is it was like, it was for Best Supporting Actress, okay?
Yeah.
And did you ever see L.A. Confidential?
Probably.
I saw it, and I was not impressed with anything in that movie.
There's nothing memorable about it.
There really isn't. And it's like, okay, And so whenever she won, I was like, you got to be kidding me, So I don't know. But it is what it is.
But Nicholson stole this movie.
He stole this movie in a lot of ways. He got paid. I think he's still getting paid.
It wouldn't surprise me.
For all the Batman movies. Like, in his contract, there was a clause in there that basically said he would get back end money on everything Batman film related going forward. So he got paid on Batman Returns and Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
I don't know if that had run out already, or or if that was in perpetuity. Maybe it was just for like the deals for this or whatever. So he very well may have gotten paid for the Nolan stuff as well as the Batman and Batman v Superman and all that. I mean, I don't know that for a fact. I also don't know. Yeah. But I do know that for the two Burton movies as well as the two Schumacher movies, he got paid on the back end of those. Yeah. Without ever appearing in 3 of them at all. So, which good deal if you can get it. Now, somebody else who got paid, and this is, again, we're getting into more of the extended universe. Someone else who got paid and never appeared on a single frame of film for the Batman series?
Who's that?
Marlon Wayans.
Marlon Wayans?
He was going to be Robin.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Had signed matter of fact, it was supposed to have been in, I think it was Batman Forever. That's when they introduced, but I think, actually, no, he was supposed to be in Batman Returns as Robin.
And they just cut him out.
They cut it out. They cut that character out completely. And
glad they did.
Well, it would have definitely been interesting. It's kind of
that movie was kind of already crowded up a little bit anyway.
It was. It's kind of like so many other things, like, when they were going to make the Superman movie in the late 90s that they had signed Chris Rock to be Jimmy Olsen, and it never happened.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't have a problem with it either. There's a lot of that type stuff where it's like, you find out about these people who were supposed to be, that's, who the original Vicky Vale was.
Oh, I knew this at one point.
Sean Young.
Yeah.
They filmed quite a bit of the movie, And there was a sequence in there where they were horseback riding, and she fell off the horse and was injured really badly. And they just decided, well, we'll just cut her and we'll recast and go on.
Yeah.
So, again, kind of like in an alternate reality that Eric Stoltz is Marty McFly.
Yeah.
In an alternate reality, Sean Young is Vicky Vale. So I mean, it's.
I wonder if that would have changed the dynamic of the
Absolutely.
movie some. Because
Sean Young,
it felt a little stiff between those two.
Sean Young, lover or hater, is a presence on screen, unlike Kim Basinger.
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything away from Kim Basinger, because Kim Basinger, I think she did a good job.
Yeah, it was a good job.
But Sean Young is like a force of nature when she comes into something.
Yeah, like there wasn't already enough forces of nature in this movie.
And and she lobbied for Catwoman. Like, she lobbied hard for Catwoman.
Yeah.
When they did that, and I
think
think they did a good job with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, I don't see her as
No
Catwoman.
No offense to Sean Young, it wouldn't have been acting for her. It was kind of like it would have been the same. It would have been the same as Nicholson in this. That's not acting. That's him being Jack Nicholson. Okay,
it is. You're not.
If
wrong.
Sean Young winds up being Catwoman, that's just Sean Young being Sean Young. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, a little bit of stunt casting on something like that.
But we got to talk about Bob here.
All right, let's talk about Bob. What about Bob?
It's a different movie.
I know. Bob the Goon.
You can tell.
You're right. Most competent henchman in any of these movies.
But there's a scene in Batman that shows why he is. It's because him and Napier they've
gone way back. I know,
partners for and he's always looked after Napier.
Right,
always looked.
And then what happens? Napier shoots him after his balloons get taken away. And it's kind of one of those things. He goes up to his Bob gun, and then he just shoots Bob.
Yeah,
and it's like, no. Bob was like the best.
Well,
the best guy you had working for you.
Everything goes downhill after he shoots Bob.
That's true.
Because Bob was in the background taking care of everything.
Dude. Okay, so from the point where Batman flies in, grabs the balloons that have
with the Batwing,
that have the Smile-X in it, takes it away. Until this thing's over, how long do you think it takes?
It's like 5 minutes.
25 minutes.
Really?
There is 25 minutes between when that happens to the end of the movie. 25 minutes. That's why I keep saying this movie is 2 hours and 6 minutes long. Okay?
Probably should have been an hour 45.
There is a cut of this movie that's probably probably about hour 45.
Yeah.
That is fast paced. That there's no fat on it whatsoever, and it's a much better movie. Okay. Obviously, we're not going to go through this point by point, because I think everybody who's listening to this has seen Batman. If you haven't, go watch it. I mean, it's well worth. It's really good to watch this movie.
It's like a fun popcorn movie.
It's not my favorite Batman movie. Okay, but it's one of those things. Again, when you go back, like I said earlier, and you go back. There had only been one serious superhero movie prior to this.
Yeah.
Okay? Like big budget Superman.
Without this movie, we don't get any of the Christopher Nolan stuff.
Well, without this movie, we don't get anything.
Yeah.
Okay? Batman's a flop. I don't think we have anything. This started it all. And, of course, by the time you get to Batman and Robin, it had gone way off the rails,
Yeah.
And, even to the point where they talked about, like, Batman and Robin killing the franchise. Like, we may never get another Batman movie.
Yeah.
And then...
Thank you, Schumacher, for the nipple suits.
Well, I will say this about Schumacher. Because, for a decade before he died, then he did interviews, and that... especially Batman and Robin. I think Batman Forever is actually a pretty decent movie.
That's
Val Kilmer.
Yeah,
I think it's actually a pretty decent movie. I think it's like, okay, no, this was okay. It's a step away from the Burton stuff, but it's actually a pretty decent movie.
Yeah,
it's got its problems. Don't get me wrong. There's some stuff.
There's issues.
But by the time you get to Batman and Robin, he's on record saying, look, we would have a script. and we would start doing something, and then they were like, okay, we need a new bat suit. Like the studio kept coming in and like, no, we need Batman to be in a different bat suit for this and for that. And he was like, why is that? Because we're trying to sell toys. I mean, so that's the reason why you have so many different bat suits and gimmick, and like, bat accessories and all that kind of stuff in that movie is because it was just, he said it's like, fine, whatever, just tell me what you want to shoot. And
this is way off the rails.
Yeah.
But you know what my favorite part of the last Matrix movie was?
Which one? The Return or whatever, the last one, like the actual last one?
The actual very last one is when they're starting to create the new Matrix game, and they're sitting around the table and they're absolutely dragging Warner Brothers over the coals for all the crap that they pulled in the past.
Fair enough,
And I was like, yeah. Okay, so Warner Brothers has maybe become a little self-aware that they've screwed things up in the past.
So, okay, I have to ask this. Well, anyways, what I was saying, this movie in the context of all that is great. It gets us to the Nolan movies. It gets us
Which
to...
I love the Nolan movies. It's as close as you're going to get to a version of Frank Miller Year One, and into some.
Actually,
I
think the Batman is probably the closest we get to Year One.
You think?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, okay, I can see that.
Now I get, Batman Begins was kind of a version of it.
Yeah,
but when the Batman,
no, you're right.
No, that's more of a Year One. Now,
that one's so new that I keep forgetting about it. And I've seen it like 2 or 3 times now.
And who was a good Batman?
Don't make me say it.
Say it.
Don't make me say it. Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson was a very, very good Batman.
Yeah.
Not some. Okay, we'll get into that.
I actually don't mind him as Bruce Wayne either, because it's a younger, I'm still angry Bruce Wayne.
All right. As we're getting out of here, we have to talk
getting out. Why are we ending already?
Because we're getting. I mean, we don't have to. I mean, we're.
Why are we putting a time?
Closing in.
Why don't we just talk about it? It's fun.
Well, I mean, we've covered pretty much everything in the movie at this point.
No, we have not.
Well, okay.
No, we have not.
We could.
We got to talk about the ending of this, because I'm still angry about it.
About them killing the Joker?
They killed the Joker.
Yeah.
You cannot kill the Joker. The Joker is Batman's nemesis. He is the main running enemy through everything. Without Batman, you do not have Joker. Without Joker, you do not have Batman.
I agree with that. Apparently, there was some kind of attempt to bring Nicholson back for returns.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't. He's like, why? I'm getting paid. We killed that character off. I don't need to come back. And so
you don't kill Joker.
Well,
you don't kill Joker.
Well, they did.
You kill Robbins.
Yeah,
left and right, but you don't.
But
you
they
don't
did
kill Joker.
They killed Joker in this because
they were stupid.
I give it to again. This is early. We're taking this seriously, and mistakes were made. Okay, that's just you're trying to find your footing, and again. They didn't know that this was going to be the phenomenon that it was.
I don't care if it's a phenomenon or not. You don't kill Joker.
Well,
you don't do it. He is the major
I agree.
baddie
I mean, that's
in Batman.
Now, I will say this. I'm fine with not ever having Nicholson come in and play that character again.
No.
Okay. Now, I say that not because I'm dragging him as the character, but because there have been much better versions of the Joker.
Yes.
That and that's one of the things I want to get into. I have question. Okay, here's the pop quiz that I have. Not even pop quiz. The let's make a list. Okay.
Okay.
You make yours. I'll make mine. Okay. If you want to put the 66 Batman in here, I'll be fine with that. But I'm just kind of thinking about the movies, because I know there was the Batman movie, that came out in 67 or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, it's kind of like talking about Catwoman. I mean, everybody always goes back to Julie Newmar and all that. When you talk about,
it's just funny because she was only on one season.
Yeah, I know. So. When you talk about Jokers, you have to talk about Cesar Romero.
That's fine.
You have to talk about him because he's kind of the quintessential '60s.
Of
Joker.
Live action Jokers.
Ledger.
Oh, hold on. Of live action Jokers. Rank
It's Ledger.
Ledger
Ledger's number
1.
one.
Okay.
Ledger's number 1.
Who's number 2?
Live action?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, the only other live action one I can.
Oh no, there's more. There's like.
Are you talking about the TV animation shows and all that too?
Yeah.
Because if
no,
you're talking...
I said live action. Okay, I did not say animation because we're not going to get into Mark Hamill because that's a whole other.
Because Hamill, for me, Hamill's number 2.
I know because that's the same thing you get in a Batman. Then it's Kevin Conroy. I mean, that's there.
Yeah.
But I said live action. Okay.
Live action. There's really only Ledger and Nicholson.
No, you're missing quite a few of them.
Okay, like who?
Okay, live action. You've got. Here's my list. You've got Ledger.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, I didn't think about.
Okay.
See, I have mixed feelings about Joaquin Phoenix in the Joker movies.
Joaquin Phoenix is kind of one of those like, is he playing Joker or is he playing Joaquin Phoenix?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the Joker movie. I'm actually looking forward to Joker 2. We'll see
Harley Quinn.
We'll see how it goes. I don't know that I consider that.
Well,
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's my second one.
Okay.
And then after that, I would probably put Nicholson.
Yeah.
And then I'll put Cesar Romero in after that. Okay.
Okay.
And then, of course, I have not watched enough of and also the fact they never actually called him the Joker, but Gotham. I
tried watching that show.
I know they had
watching that show.
3 different Joker-esque characters on there. So I'm kind of like, because I don't know it, but then you got Jared Leto on the end of it,
No.
And that's why I put him at the very end of it, because he's not good in that role whatsoever. And I don't care. It's not a different take. That is just not the Joker. I'm sorry.
That's not the Joker.
So yeah, I mean that's.
And the fact that Heath Ledger actually called Nicholson to talk about playing that role, and Jack warned him. He's like, "Hey, man, this will change you."
Yeah, well,
and
financially, most definitely. Nicholson made all kinds of money off of it.
Well,
have you ever seen what was the real inspiration for Ledger's Joker? The interview with Tom Waits.
No,
there isn't. He said that.
I know he spent 2 weeks in a hotel room by himself trying to figure out the makeup.
He said that the inspiration for the voice and the way that he kind of presented himself and stuff like that came from an interview. It was from the 80s, like late 80s, sometime mid-late 80s somewhere. It was Tom Waits. It was in an Australian television talk show type thing. He came in. And apparently, I mean, I've watched it. The voice is straight up.
Is it?
It is. He's, for whatever reason, Waits is got this. I don't know. Apparently, he had done all the cocaine in Australia before he went on this show.
Oh, well, Waits has always kind of had a gravelly.
Well, this wasn't gravelly though. That's the thing. He's got this real type thing going on. It's just like, what is this? This is not Tom Waits. What's going on here? But it's like, in this interview, but you can really hear the voice. Like, okay, he definitely modeled his voice off of this.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Who's an actor that has not done Joker that you would like to see play Joker? I've got one.
I have not thought about this.
I've got an actor that I've had in mind for a very long time that I have wanted to watch play a serious Joker, and we haven't gotten it yet.
Who is it?
Willem Dafoe.
All right. Again, that's kind of some stunt casting. I can see it.
I think that is. I think he is custom built for that role.
Yeah. Especially a couple decades ago.
Yeah.
If
we could get Boondock Saints, Willem Dafoe.
Or Spider-Man, Willem Dafoe. That. But I'm just like that.
Yeah.
He's a little. I think he's a little long in the tooth for it now. I can see that though. That he's got that skinny and and he's got that look in his eyes. Where it's a
I mean he can go to that place.
Okay. Here's my next question.
Yeah.
This is actually it's a twofold. First, we're going to start with live action. Rank your Batman. Live action. Because again, if we're not doing that, Kevin Conroy's the top for me. But that's,
Absolutely. I would probably have
Batman. Batman, not Bruce Wayne. We're going to get to Bruce Wayne in a minute.
Batman. I'd probably have to go Bale first.
As Batman.
Okay.
You had a hard time thinking about everybody?
No, I hate to say this because I eat crow every time I have to go with it. I think I have to go with Pattinson second. I think third would got to be Keaton.
Okay.
Just because that's where the live action stuff kicked off. And I think he did a fairly decent Batman.
You having a hard time thinking of everybody?
No, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it.
Go ahead and say Ben Affleck. Go ahead and say it.
The Ben Affleck Batman has grown on me. I think he does a fairly decent job at doing Batman and Wayne, honestly.
We'll get into that.
It galls me to no end that two of those that are on that list I railed against at the very beginning, and I've ended up having to come around.
All right,
eat crow on it a little bit.
Anybody else you want to put on there?
No, I don't think so.
All right, mine. Mine's going to be a little controversial here. Okay,
imagine that.
I'm going with Pattinson 1, just as Batman. Okay. I'm going to go with Keaton 2.
Okay.
Just as Batman.
Yeah.
I'm going to put Ben Affleck 3.
Oh, come on.
Just as Batman. I'm going to put Bale 4. Then Kilmer 5. Val Kilmer. And then after that, I guess probably, what's his name? Adam West. And then at the very bottom of that is George Clooney because he was just terrible. Okay. I think as Batman, that Pattinson and Ben Affleck and, of course, Michael Keaton did excellent jobs. I think Val Kilmer did a good job as Batman.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, it's just diminishing returns.
Yeah.
All right. Now, who did Bruce Wayne the best?
I think probably Val Kilmer.
Okay.
I think Kilmer pulled off a better Wayne
than
he was. After that, I'd probably have to go Bale, Affleck. Maybe Keaton. It's kind of...
I'll be honest when it comes to it. I think that Christian Bale was the best Bruce Wayne.
You think so?
I do. After that, Kilmer is probably the next best Bruce Wayne. And then it's just diminishing returns after that of everybody else. Of like, I'm not
going to lie. I kind of enjoy Pattinson as emo Wayne. It's mid-20s.
Let's put it this way:
emo Wayne.
Again, at the very bottom of that list. At the very bottom of that list is George Clooney because he was terrible. I've said that's always been kind of the problem with Batman. You get somebody who can either play Batman, but they can't play Bruce Wayne, or they can play Bruce Wayne and they can't play Batman. Apparently, George Clooney can do neither.
No.
So, I mean, that George Clooney is just like, no, I'm just going to be smug George Clooney. That's all I'm going to be. And
but as an ex-MK Ultra victim, having worked for the government in that movie, Men Who Stare at Goats. He's perfect for that.
But it just, I do. I think Christian Bale, like I said, I think I had him, fourth on my list or for Batman or something, like fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
I guess it was fourth. But it's one of those things where it's like, he's a good Batman.
Yeah.
He is an excellent Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And whereas, like, Keaton, I thought was a really good Batman.
Yeah.
But not a very good Bruce Wayne.
No, not at all.
Val Kilmer was a really good Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Not a very good Batman.
Not a very good Batman.
That's kind of one of those, like,
You've almost got to have a sociopath play a sociopath.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I know listing stuff, it's always subjective, who hear that. And again, going back, I have not watched Gotham, so I can't. I know that
I have tried.
I've heard that the depiction of Bruce Wayne in that is terrible, and the whole when he finally becomes Batman at the end is just almost unwatchable. So.
I have tried to go back and watch that series like 3 different times, and I just can't do it. Well, I can't do it. It's just
that
not
show's
that
pretty
good.
much about Gordon, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's pretty much a Jim Gordon TV show, and interesting. It's I can get on board with some of that, but I did when it first came on the air. I watched I think the first 2 episodes, and it was just kind of like noped out. It didn't catch me, and then I kept hearing mixed stuff forever after that. I did hear that they did a really good Penguin on that show.
Yeah, Penguin on that show. Yeah. The guy who played Penguin did an excellent job with it.
I really liked the way they did Penguin and the Batman.
Yeah.
And the fact that is Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
Under all that makeup, and just like, whoa, he knocked this one out of the park.
Yeah.
Tell you what, who would have been a good Batman 20 years ago?
Who's that?
Colin Farrell.
You think?
Yeah.
You think he could pull them both off?
Yep.
Wayne and the Batman.
I think he could do both of them. I think he could. He may still be able to. Who knows? But especially back then, I was like, I think go back and watch stuff he did. Like, was it? I know it's not a very good movie, but Miami Vice.
I have tried watching.
I know it's not a very good movie, but he's good in it. I mean, it's or I tell you what, go back and watch the second season of True Detective that he's in.
Okay.
He is really good in that. That second season got a lot of flack because it wasn't the first season. That first season was just so good.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it was an anthology, so they went with different, a whole different story and a whole different, everything.
Yeah.
And I think that second season is on par with the first. I mean, it might not be as good, like it's compelling, but when you sit down and really watch it and pay attention to what's going on, it's like, no, there's a lot going on here that is really worth paying attention to. It does kind of fumble the end a little bit, like the reveal.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's just like, no, this is really good actors in it on top of it all. What's her name? Beth Dutton is in it. And then. I can't remember her name. And Vince Vaughn is like the heavy on that second season.
See, you have always given me crap about Vince Vaughn. I
like Vince Vaughn. I do. I hated Swingers Vince Vaughn. Okay, I hate Swingers Vince Vaughn. I hate that movie.
You're supposed to hate that character.
Yeah, but he has done other stuff that like, dude, did you ever see? I know you did. What's the one?
Can you give me a storyline or something?
It's about the guy. It's got DJ Qualls where he he's in the army, but he's a pacifist. He doesn't want to carry a gun. Something Ridge.
Heartbreak Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge.
And Vince Vaughn plays the drill sergeant in it. And he's excellent in that. He's excellent in. I know it's a weird movie, but did you ever see Fighting with My Family?
Yeah,
about the Soraya.
Yeah,
he's excellent in that. Again, there's something about him playing those mentor roles.
Yeah,
where it's kind of okay. He's really good in
Old School.
No, well, yeah,
I enjoy Old School.
No, what's that movie? Came out a couple of years ago where he plays a slasher, and he swaps bodies with the teenage girl.
It's not Becky.
No, it's
I know which one you're talking
the
about.
name of it.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, dude, I enjoyed it because it's one.
It's like switched or flipped or something like that.
Hold on. Let me pull it up here because it's well worth. Like, it was one of those movies I was like, this can't be good. And then I watched it. I'm like, no, this is actually really good. Freaky, that's the name of it.
Oh, like Freaky Friday.
Yeah,
Freaky.
It's just called Freaky, and he has to play a teenage girl through all of it. And he's really good in the role.
But say what you will, I still enjoy watching swingers on occasion.
I just that one never appealed to me.
It's too hipster for you.
There's that whole swing thing that I just never got. So, but yeah, I mean,
because of who my mom is, I grew up listening to swing and all of that. So when that came out, I was like, "Oh, cool! There's new bands actually doing this."
Yeah, but that was the thing. They kept trying to make it a thing, and then
it was a thing
for 6 months. Yeah,
no,
and then
that,
a year. I'll give it a year. It was a thing for a year, and then it went away.
Would you like to insult Godfather again here while we're at it?
It's just, look, it's not that, I mean, those bands are still, I saw Brian Setzer Orchestra years before swing caught on, I mean, like before that whole swing revival happened in 98.
Well, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy had been out.
They'd been around for a long time.
Forever.
There had been a bunch of those bands that had been around for a long time. And it was one of those things you kept hearing about it from time to time, and they kept, there were multiple
something the Sky High Mile High Orchestra.
Yeah,
Denver and a Mile High Orchestra.
Yeah, there were plenty of those types of going all the way back to like Swing Kids in the early '90s, and stuff like that, where they kept trying to bring it back, and it just wouldn't catch. There's even one of those bands is in Clueless. I can't remember which one. Yeah, they go to see it. It's this whole swing thing or whatever. And
no, that was not swing.
What was it?
That was Mighty Mighty Boston. That was ska.
Thing.
So it is not the same thing. And screw you.
Ska swing, same thing.
No.
An annoying little blip on the pop culture.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and do your Godfather insult here. Go ahead.
Just saying.
Go ahead.
It's long and boring.
No.
Anyway, but yeah, it was they kept trying to bring it back. They kept trying, and then it caught all of a sudden, and then it went away after about a year. And
if you haven't seen Swingers, go see it.
It's what it is. Maybe that's one that we can watch later, and I can tear it apart.
No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Anyway,
I'm going to enjoy the movie, and you can go screw off.
Vince Vaughn,
not personally,
might not be a bad Batman.
No.
Really? Yeah, I don't know. I think he might be able to do it.
No.
Probably a better Bruce Wayne than Batman, but that's
no. Do you know who he would end up being if he did that? The character he played for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That's what he would end up being.
I have seen that movie, but not since it came out, so I don't remember him being what his character.
Yeah, that was Brad. That was Brad Pitt's partner in their assassin business.
Okay,
and that's basically who he would end up.
I have not seen that movie in close to 20 years now. So it's a
so no to him as Batman or Bruce Wayne.
Well, we talked about 89 Batman. It's available on HBO or Max. They're not calling it HBO Max any longer. They made that switch over. It's available there. Of course, it's available on DVD and Blu-ray. And
do yourself a favor. Go to your favorite used media place and just pick up a copy of it.
Yeah. I'm sure the extras on it are pretty cool. One of the things we didn't even talk about was that I have the official book of the movie from 1989 that I love the fact that it was bought at Farmore. Talk about a blast from the past.
I don't think I've even heard of that place.
Yeah, you remember Farmore? At one time in the late 80s and in the very early 90s, Walmart, Sam Walton, when he was still alive, was afraid that Farmore was going to take over their business.
I've never even heard of them.
Yeah, they were kind of FAR, or PHAR. It was a pharmacy.
Yeah,
but it also had. But it was also, it's kind of like a Walmart type thing. It was like that was kind of their thing. It
must have been around here.
Now they were all over. They were all over the Midwest and down in the South. I mean, they were really catching hold. And the reason that they went away is because the people that owned it got caught doing insider trading. and the entire thing fell apart. So that was yeah.
That'll work. Yeah, it'll do it every time.
But yeah, the official book of the movie, Dave was looking at it beforehand. It's got a bunch of like stills, and it kind of goes through. I will take pictures of all this stuff and put it up on. It's kind of cool because there's like production art in here, and there's interviews with different people and stuff, and it's really kind of cool. I think it might have had a poster at one time, or maybe it still does. I don't know. Check out the '89 Batman. If for nothing else, I mean, it's worth a watch. I know, like I said, I got a little problem with the pacing on it, but it's still a lot of fun.
You have a problem with the pacing on everything that's not blow them. If it's not Michael Bay paced, you're a little upset about it.
No, that's not true. I have no problem with a movie, a longer movie. I have no problems with it. One I go back to is recently is Avengers Endgame. That's 2 hours and 45 minutes or whatever it is. There's nothing that drags in that movie whatsoever. Now there are other Marvel MCU movies that are shorter than that are probably 45 minutes too long, that just, I'm just like, oh my God, seriously, we need a better editor on this stuff. I mean, it doesn't have to be a fast pace where we hit the ground
Thor,
running.
the Dark
and
World,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Right off the top of my head.
The Eternals.
How long was that movie?
Too long.
No,
it was about 2.5 hours too long. That was what it was.
That was exactly 3 hours too long. Then.
Exactly. But yeah, it was just
garbage.
I know. But it's just if I'm going to come, like, okay, look, I just went and saw the new the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Okay, that movie is wonderfully paced.
Is that the new cartoon?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The Miles Morales. The second one. That movie is wonderfully paced. Like it doesn't drag.
Did that one actually hit theaters?
Yeah, it just came out last weekend.
Oh, okay.
Or actually, it came out this weekend. I take that back because I just saw it a couple days ago as we were recording this, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I enjoyed that first Spider-Verse. Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah, no, it was a good. I think we waited until it was streaming.
Yeah,
but
I saw both of them at the theater. So
I basically wait for everything to be on streaming now. But
there are movies that are just paced well, and there are movies that just aren't. And some of it is preference too. Sometimes filmmakers will get caught up in, I have all this stuff that I want to put in here, and it might not all need to be there. Plot lines that maybe don't go anywhere, or a character that's there for no reason, or whatever, stuff that you could like, no, we could streamline this quite a bit. We could, but it is what it is. Like I said, I think this movie, I think there's probably a hour and 45-minute cut of this that would work for me. You can cut out some stuff.
So what you're saying is I need to take the movies that you're not happy with and cut them down for an Allen cut.
Well,
and give them back to you so your
it is what
ADHD can get through them.
It is what it is. But yeah, this was, again, it was kind of like with this one, like I said earlier, when I remember being in the theater and being like, wow, this is kind of boring. Like in '89, being so hyped for this movie and then being like, man, this is kind of boring. And then when it came out, I only saw it in the theater once. When it was released for VHS, which they got it out before Christmas.
Yeah.
Getting it and watching it again and being like, yeah, this is still kind of boring. It's really slow,
I don't remember thinking that at all when I saw it in the theater or the VHS.
Kind of like 40 years ago going to the movies to see Return of the Jedi and being like, oh, wow, George Lucas really didn't do well on this one.
Oh, it's just a bunch of Muppets.
Yeah, this is first time something I really loved disappointed me. It was like, there we go.
I still say Empire's the best one of all of those.
No, that's a whole other story. We're not going to start talking about Star Wars. We'll be here for another hour. So,
and we'll have to wait for my wife to get here.
Exactly. Yeah. So guys, thank you so much for listening to us ramble on about stuff that wasn't Batman. And we will be back next week. We have a special guest coming in next week. Or in 2 weeks, I guess I should say. I'm used to saying next week.
Next week or
next
2 weeks.
episode. Next episode, we have a special guest coming
Whenever we are able to get the next episode.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure what we're talking about yet. So.
I thought you'd given me
someone that we have talked about on this show and has never appeared on it is going to finally be here. So and we are going to give him so much crap about some stuff. So.
Because I built a list. You told me to build a list. I built of the stuff.
Oh yeah, okay. I thought your stuff to give him crap about. So.
Oh no, that's just going to come naturally.
I know. All right, guys, go check out our Discord. There's links. Everything is in the description. Discord, Instagram.
Come join our community.
Yeah, most definitely come over to Discord. We have a lot of fun over there. And as we have said the last couple episodes, please go and do us a favor, and give us a rating on whatever your podcatcher of choice. Give us a review.
Give us a review.
It costs you nothing. It helps us tremendously, and we really appreciate it. You guys have been rock stars this year. We've seen our numbers really go up. And,
thank you very much.
So, and if you join the Discord, you can we have a tab on there where you can go and suggest stuff that you want us to cover.
We understand that we haven't gotten to some of those yet. We are working.
We are working on it.
I promise.
There's been a lot of life, like I've said before, but we're getting everything moving in the right direction, and we will be back in 2 weeks.
For a week,
and whenever we have,
or whenever
we're working on trying to get back to the week thing, but it's. Like I said, a lot of life, and it's just kind of been one of those things where scheduling has been difficult, and that's just kind of where we are these days. Yeah. So, I am Alan Smith.
I'm the other guy, Big Dave,
and
I'll just turn it off already. See ya.
See ya.
Get the fuck up, Batman! Go with a smile. Do it. Keep busting.